Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Neighborhood Block Party Virtual Retreat with Country Craft Creations. I'm Nicole, and we are going to start off with the pool party project. It's a memory ducks in a box, and it's actually a double box. Pool Party is by Echo Park. And in your package, you're going to receive the paper collection, the 12 by 12. You're going to have some straws, some seam binding, a package of some things to use for your shaker bits. I've used what I had in my stash in making this, but you're also going to receive some acetate, and the sticker collection comes with it also, as well as this mini pom-pom trim that's just adorable. So with the project, like I said, it is a double box. The top has a hinge on it so that it can house additional pictures or a mini album that you may want to make separately. But I've used the paper collection in order to try to mimic the bottom of a pool. And the top box will come off like this because it sits right on top of the bottom. And we are going to be using some straws in the bottom in order to create the ability for our memory decks to slide back and forth. So I do want to show you this. Memory decks cards have this punch out at the bottom. Now there are punches for this, there are dies for this, or if you don't have either of those, I have included a template on the instruction booklet that you can cut out and use and trace around and cut around, or as another alternative, as I've done here, I've used my crocodile in order to make this very easy to punch out the shape there, and then I just use my scissors to cut the very bottom of it. But you can see I've used some artisan cardstock here. I've used the light blue for this project, and available at Country Craft Creations, and I've just gone through. I'm going to show you quickly a couple examples of some of the memory decks that I've made to give you a couple of ideas. There are the cut-aparts from the paper collection that I've used, both the 4x4s or 4x6s. I've pulled out some of my corner rounders and corner punches. I've included a couple of elements from my stash, like this little card here. I've incorporated some older elements that I've made in the past that I wanted to put in here and decorate. I have made some overlapping little picture frames, some rosettes, and added the stickers to it. Let me get quickly, let's see. We've done stuff like this where it is the cut-aparts that I've just scored, and then I used another piece of the paper to make a little belly band on here, and then I've added artisan cardstock for a flip in order for me to be able to do some journaling, along with the pictures that I'm going to be adding onto these memory decks for this summer. I've used some paper clips from my stash. I've cut off some tag tops. Just be careful of the width. I've pulled out some old trim that I wanted to use up, made a little pocket here and used some of those stickers. And just use some additional leftover paper to make a little journaling spot and a tag. Pulled out some jemmies from my stash. So this is just to give you some ideas. There's another 4x4. And let's go ahead, one more thing I guess. I'll show you another pocket you can make with the collection. So there I can put a little photo on the back of that. So the thing is, you can make these chunky because there's plenty of room for you to add multiple memory decks cards to it. Or even here I have a little thicker envelope to add and had some flowers. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's get going cutting our chipboard. You should have 3 pieces of 12 by 12 lightweight chipboard. I am going to go through showing you how to cut these out, but there is a layout in your package. You just have to be careful of which cuts you make first. to make it easier for you, okay? So the first sheet, you're going to first cut down this direction, and then the second cut you're going to make is across this one, and then you're going to make this third cut, okay? Then this first cut measures 4.5 inches wide, okay, and it is 6 inches tall. So this is just my cutter of choice. You can go ahead and use your regular trimmer because this is, or lightweight chipboard. So again, you're going to measure over 4.5 inches, and you're going to cut like that. And then you're going to measure this one, you're going to put it in your cutter, and you're going to measure 6 inches down. So basically you're cutting it in half. Okay, I would recommend stacking them up against each other and making sure that they are the same length, just in case you got off, you know, the human factor. So you could trim it if you need to, and then mark both of those with the letter A. This is going to help you later. The next piece that you have here, you're going to come down and you're going to put that in your cutter and cut it at 6 inches so that you have two pieces, and you're going to mark one as B1 and the other as B2 and put those aside. Your second sheet of lightweight chipboard you're going to put into your cutter, and we are going to make this cut first. So this is E, and E measures 2.5 by 6, so it is 2.5 inches tall. So we're going to measure 2.5. These are 12 inches long, so you could do it the opposite way of 9.5, so that you have 2.5 inches over here that's being cut off. But if you know your trimmer, you do your thing, just as long as you cut it at 2.5. Okay. Now that piece you just cut off, you're going to cut that at 6 inches. Okay, so you have two of those, and you're going to mark those both as E. So you have two E's. Put those aside. Next cut you're going to make is this one right here. So F is 2 inches. Okay, so again, we're going to stick this back in your cutter and cut off another 2 inches. Okay. That next cut was going to be this one, so it's the length of F, so that's going to be 7.5 inches. So we're going to cut this at 7.5. We're going to mark this as F. Put that aside. This is a drop piece. Put it over to the side. This is one of your G's. Okay, your extra. Your next cut is going to be this one. So the width of C is 4.5 inches. So I'm going to cut 4.5 inches. And we're going to do that again. Make sure that you're cutting it the correct way. So you have two C's, C and a C. Put that aside. Now what you should have left is what is going to be a D, but we have to trim off that little edge. So the D piece, the width of that is 2.5 inches, and right now you should have 3 inches. So we want to make sure to trim that down to 2.5 inches. And that's your D piece. Get out your third sheet of lightweight chipboard. And the first cut we're going to make is this one right here, to cut off the length of B3. So B, there were 3 of the B's. 1, 2, 3. This is the quantity. The length of it is 7.5 inches, and the width is 6 inches. So we need to make sure to measure down 7.5 inches. Let's put this in the cutter for 7.5. Okay. This is going to be our G piece we just cut off. G. This is like this. Just like this. This is the G piece right here. The next thing we're going to do is cut this one. So we're going to take this piece right here, move this off to the side. And the width of this is 6 inches. We're going to cut this at 6 inches. That is going to be our B3 piece. Don't get flustered. If you need to take a little bit more time, then just pause the video. You can basically rewind it, watch it again. Okay? So that's our B3 piece. Now the next cut is going to be this one. So the D piece is 2.5 inches wide. So we're going to put this piece back in our cutter, and we're going to cut a piece at 2.5 inches wide. And that is going to be another D piece. So we have one from the prior sheet and then one from this one. So we have 2 of them, right? So we'll set that aside. And now we're going to cut the F piece. The F width is 2 inches. So let's put this back in. And let's cut this down to 2 inches. So this is going to be F. That is our second F piece. And both of these are going to be G pieces left over. Okay, so you should have 4 pieces of leftover lightweight chipboard, the G's, which you want to set those aside because we're not going to be using those right now. Use those for a different project, use those for spacers, pop-ups, that kind of thing. They're good for that, but now you have your cut pieces. Now I've laid these out so that I can describe to you how the box is going to come together. There, like I said, is 3 B pieces, so you're going to have one that is the top. This is going to be cut so that the acetate is through it. Then you're going to have a second one, which is going to be the bottom of the top box, okay? And then those are going to be connected by these sides. So if I take off the top, which is going to be the acetate window, okay, and then I try to describe to you, this is the bottom of the top box. This is going to be the side. This will roll up here. This will roll up here. And then these 2 will roll up like this and like this in order to create your box, okay? That is your top box, okay? Once we have that together, then you're going to have the bottom box. So this is the very bottom of the double box. This is going to be one side, your other long side, and then these of course will be your ends, just like that. Okay, so we're going to work on putting all of those together. After we get this box together and totally wrapped with cardstock, then we're going to work on putting the straws in. Now the straws, in order to hold them in place, we're going to use the F's. Okay, now what I left off of the cutting guide is the length measurement to exactly cut these F's down. I want you to build your box first, and then I want you to do your final measurement of F in order to make sure that your box is fitted correctly. So the F piece, you can see for me, is inside here. Okay, I've wrapped it in cardstock, and then I've went ahead and cut a couple of holes into it. If I can show you this way, to hold the straw in place. Okay, and that's why I want this to be pretty tight to your box, so I want you to measure yours after you get your box wrapped. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started wrapping our putting our boxes together. Okay, so cutting the paper, I would recommend cutting out the items associated with one of these first, so you don't have paper pieces floating all over the place. So we're going to stick with this. I'm going to cut out the cardstock, and when you're cutting, you want to try to cut the smallest measurement first to save on paper. So for these larger pieces, okay? So once you get those cut out, what I do is once I cut them, then I put it face down so that I can just flip the entire thing over. And what I do is I also get out my scoreboard to help me space the chipboard correctly. The first thing though for that we're going to do, if you don't have score tape on a big sheet, I highly recommend it. Those are sold in the store. And I also like these big rolls because I use a lot of it. So do that. So I do this to give me the maximum amount of coverage first. And then I will fill in with my other roll. Okay. Always misplacing things on my desk. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Okay, so those are A, B, nice and easy that makes it. That's B. Get all these covered quickly. Just do it like that. And you can start to see how much faster it is to do it this way. Because we want to spend our time decorating. Or at least I do. If you like the construction, that's great. There's probably plenty of people out there that would prefer to not have to do the construction, but just to do the decorating. Okay, let me cover this up. Of course, I've lost my other done for. That's all right. Okay, just make sure to burnish well. Get a good stick. And then we're going to bring back in our scoreboard. Okay, so these are the A pieces. I'm going to lay my A piece down. If you don't have these spacers from the store, Tamara sells them. And it makes doing covers for albums so much easier because glad I checked my paper before I laid that down. So I had the whole stack upside down. So anyhow, make sure you have the 6.5 inches at the top, 8 inches for your A piece. Like that. Got one. Lay the other one down. You're just going to shove it underneath those spacers. Take off your backing. If you like to use glue for this, you can as well. This should be an 8-inch at the top, 9.5 at the bottom. This is going to fit right there. And it's going to be your B1 piece. Okay. And we're going to have this piece, which is also 6.5 inches wide, but it's 9.5 inches long. And they're your C pieces. And you're going to have the other one. And then we're going to burnish really well. Okay, I'm going to start with the B piece, which is the bottom. I'm going to fold that over on each of the sides and burnish it down in order to create a good crease for each of these corners, because we're going to wrap it just like we do the covers for our mini albums now. Okay, and then we're going to cut these out like this. Okay, so you go ahead and do yours, and I'm going to do mine. I'm going to wrap every single one of those pieces, okay? I really like this method that Tamara came up with. For our mini albums, where we wrap our front and back covers, and then we use the spine piece to connect those two covers And that is basically what we're going to be doing with this box also. But we're going to be using a hinge as the spine per se. So we get all of our creases made really well. And then we're going to cut out all of our corners here. Like that. See, if you make it kind of like an assembly line, it goes faster. So do all of the same that you can. We're doing all of this box, and then we'll go back and do the other one. And the only reason I said to do that is to try to minimize the mix-up of some of the papers that you have for the two boxes. I think this makes it a little bit more manageable anyhow in your workspace. Almost done. Just a couple more. Make sure that you get right to that corner. Alright, and now I'm going to use my glue to glue down all of these edges. I'm going to push against the back side so that it glues against the edge of that chipboard and then roll it over. Okay. Hope everyone's going to have fun during this retreat. I know I will. I'm looking forward to making these exciting projects that the other designers have come up with. Tamara's retreats are always so much fun. If you can make it to one of her in-person retreats, that really is a fun time. You get to meet so many people, and they really do become good friends. Yep. Not everybody can make it to the in-person retreats, so she started doing these virtual retreats, and I think it just helps bring some of this crafty time to others that wouldn't otherwise be able to get to one of those. Makes it so much fun for everyone. Just little games along the way, you know, to keep you motivated on doing your projects. Now remember, these will stay recorded, so you don't have to stress about not keeping up or missing something, an instruction, because you will have plenty of time on your own to go back and rewatch it if you need to. Back it up. Okay. You see, I'm just pushing on that back side and then folding it over and giving it a little bit of a burnish. is one of the side pieces. Okay. And two more left here. Alright. I have to remember to talk when I'm doing this because I'll just get real quiet. I'm working away, working away. What do you guys do while you're crafting? Do you listen to a book or music or just quiet time, video, I don't know, YouTube videos, other crafting? I do that sometimes. Listen to some crafting videos, pick up on some tips and ideas. Maybe it will sink in. Alright, almost done here with this. And I'm just using my little rag here. Get any excess glue off. Alright. Okay, now we have all those covered. Aside. Have all those pieces. I'm going to get my scoreboard back out. I'm going to set the next two pieces aside, and you're going to get the 1-inch wide strips. Okay, so you're going to place the 1-inch wide strips down in your scoreboard, and you're going to score each of those at 1/2 inch. Okay, do that for all of them. These are the 4.5-inch ones. And then you also have 4 of the longer ones for this bottom box. We're going to score those also at 1/2 inch. And these are 7.5 inches. Okay. Two more. One more. Okay. Set that back aside. And let's go ahead and burnish all of these. These are going to be our attaching strips for the sides of the box. Okay. One more. I'm just giving it a little bit of a bend, helping it along, and then folding it down and burnishing it. So you have 4 longer ones and 4 shorter ones. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the shorter ones and we're going to glue those so that the fold, okay, so that the folded edge is along the outer edge of our piece. Okay. before you do that, if you have any pieces that you need to trim off, go ahead and do that now. Just saw that one. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this. I'm going to start with the short side. That is piece A. And just make sure you push it all the way to just match up with that outer edge. And then burnish it down really well. Okay. You want to do a short one and then a long one. So you're going to do this piece C. And what you want to do is you want to butt that up, the edges, right there. You're going to butt those up to each other. And I can use my mat to help me keep these straight. So I'm going to butt it up here. Okay. And then while I have this folded down, I'm going to go ahead and place my glue. Holding this still, and then I'm going to fold this over like that. And then I'm going to burnish. There you go. See, now you have a hinge. Okay, and the important part is that you do short, long, short. So let's get another A piece right here. Align your C piece using your mat if you have one, or if you don't, you can also use your scoreboard to help you. Just line the pieces at their top edge on the top of your scoreboard. You can do that also. Okay, make sure you come right to the edge and then burnish your piece down. Just like that. Okay. Next piece. Remember, this is the short one, so you're going to butt it right up. We're going to hold those down. We're going to put our glue. If you'd like to use your score tape, then you should go ahead and score tape it. The art glitter glue that I'm using really does well. Dries clear, dries quickly, so game changer. Okay, so short, long, short. Now I'm going to go for another long one. I'm going to use this hinge. Okay. Put it right up to the edge and burnish it down. Line this up. Line this one up. Okay. Scoop my fingers down out of the way. Fold this over. Okay. Last one, you say? Not yet. Not yet. We want to take our B1 piece, okay, and I want to just do a dry fit. So I'm going to do this and basically do a dry fit. Okay, it's going to be tight, but that's what you want. What you want. Okay. Next still not going to put the bead one piece, and you're going to have one short piece left over. Go ahead and put that on one end only right now. So I'm going to put this on this end. And then burnish it down. And that's it for right now, because now I want to use the long hinges, and we're going to place these along the bottom. Remember, the folded side goes towards the bottom. It goes right to the edge. Well, found a typo because these are not long. No harm, I can cut them down. It's worse when you cut it too short, right? I needed 6. Well, let's see. How many of these? I've already forgotten. Yeah. 6 inches. Need these to be 6 inches. Let's go ahead and cut these down to 6 inches. Fixed. Okay. I need to fix that on the cutting guide too. Might be too late. So, as you're watching this, you make your cuts to those hinges also. Just cut them down to 6 inches, or just barely under 6 inches. Okay. Now what we're going to do is these are going to overlap as you fold them. So this is overlapping right here. See that? It's just like that. And we're going to end up with a shelf, call it, for our bottom of our box. And this needs to go inside. This is what you're going to use to figure out how tight to place this. So this is going to go inside like that. We're doing a dry fit. Okay. Push this down to the bottom. And just like that, your box comes together. Okay, good dry fit. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put just a little bit of glue on each of these tabs here, so that as they go around, we can glue them See, does this glue so good? Just like that. And then I'm going to place glue on that edge, on that little hinge. If you're using score tape, you need to do that before you close up the box, okay? Oh, one other tip I just forgot. Make it a little easier for the decorative paper if you decorate the majority of those pieces before you put it together, like I just did. So just work quickly on this because you don't have a lot of time. You have some time, but you don't have a lot of time for the glue to take hold. Okay. I'm going to press it down. I'm giving it a good burnish in there. Okay. All the way around the edge, into the corner. There's your bottom box. Okay, crafty peeps, we're going to get back at it. This is the box that we just finished up. These are the two F pieces that we're going to be using for our straws, but for the time being, let's put that aside and grab the scraps that you had from cutting out your cardstock before. You're going to select your largest pieces there. We're going to use those, and then we're going to select your next middle, I guess, length pieces also, and you can set the others aside for now. So the other thing that you're going to pick up is your other chipboard. You're going to have the two E pieces, the two D pieces, and you're going to have the B2 piece. On your cutting guide, we're going to be on the next page where the top of it says pool box, and we're going to be working over here on the cardstock side. So we're going to need 1 inch by 7 inch for the cover hinge, and we're going to go ahead and select these middle pieces. Just select one of them. You're going to cut it down. You're going to cut it down to 1 inch in width first, and then a length of 7 inches. And set that aside. You may want to use your pencil for labeling it cover hinge. Now if that bothers you, then you can erase it before we put it on, but I'll show you what to do with that in a second. The next thing you're going to be doing is the two pieces of 9.5 by 4.5. Now some of these larger pieces, when you grab them, you're going to measure them. You're going to find something just about 5.5 inches wide. That's 4 inches wide. So you're going to grab two of them, and you're going to cut those down to 9.5 inches in length. Put that aside. And then you're going to cut them down to 4.5 inches in width. And you should have two of those. Okay, so you have the cover hinge and two of those. Set that aside. Next, you're going to have two pieces of 8 inch by 4.5 inches. Okay, 8 inch by 4.5 inches. Now, this is where you're going to be using your scraps Okay, so you're going to cut the first one at 8 inches. And then set this aside. And then cut the width down to 4.5 inches. And this is going to be piece E. I should have mentioned the last two that we cut are labeled as D. Those are the wraps for D. So you have the cover hinge now, you have the 2 D pieces, and you have 1 E piece so far. You're going to grab a new sheet of cardstock and you're going to cut that second piece, that second E piece. At first you're going to cut it at 4.5 inches. Put that aside. You're going to turn it and you're going to cut this down to 8 inches. And that is your second E piece. Okay. Then you're going to grab a new sheet of cardstock and you're going to be doing the B2 piece right here. So you're going to cut it at 8 by 9.5. Cut the 8 inches first. And then turn it and cut it at 9.5. And that's your one B2 piece. Next one is B3. Same thing. You're going to cut it at 8 inches first. Turn it and cut it at 9.5. And that's going to be your B3 piece. Now this one you want to set aside. Okay, we'll do that in just a little while. So for the hinges, we are going to cut these down to 2.5 inches, and then we're going to cut them at 1 inch. Now we need 4 of these, so that's 3. Cut another one, it's 2.5 inches long, and that's 4. And then I need 2 of them that are 7.5 inches. So I'm going to cut 7.5 inches off of this scrap. And this is 3 inches wide, so I need a 1 inch piece and another 1 inch piece. We have 2 7.5 inch hinges there. Then I'm going to cut this one down to 6 inches. I need 1 and 2. This will be 6 inches also. Okay, so that's a scrap piece. Now the bottom inside cover is optional. If you are going to be covering the inside of your box with decorative paper, then you don't need to do these, okay? The insides. If you're not and you want to just use cardstock, then you would want to cut this, okay? So now that we're done with the bottom of the box, I just want to do a quick little stretch of the legs and the back, but I do want to show you that for the shaker bits, you know, you can go ahead and use some of your papers and do some fussy cutting. I did that here, cut out some of the bathing suits. You could do it with some of the lemons. There's all kinds of options with this paper to cut out. Maybe you want to cut out watermelons or beach balls. You know, or you can use your flower punch. Just use your imagination on what you want to do there. But let's get back to it and we can get going. So on the pull box, that's your second sheet to cut from, I want to make a correction here because instead of the 4 hinges that are going to be 1 inch by 7.5 inch. You're going to do 2 of those, and then you're going to add on 2 1 by 6 inches. So let's not make the same mistake that we did before. But if you cut 4 of them, then you can just, you know, later on cut it down to 6 inches when we're putting it together. It's not a problem. So let's first keep moving with our setup here. So these are some of the drop pieces. Let me just take a minute to clean up my area a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and put some of the tape on, just like we did before. I hope you all are having fun. This did turn out to be a cute project, and I'm having fun going through some of my pictures to figure out which ones I want to put on these Memory Dex cards. Okay, got that one. Do these. Quick. Again, if you want to use your glue, you should go right ahead. But we just want to cover these chipboards. There we go. Okay, that's good. And now the 2D pieces. Give those a quick cut. Thing for these self-healing mats, right? Do that one. That one. To concentrate, since this is sharp. Okay, we have those two. Let's cover this up. And let's go ahead and burnish these. Okay, so we're going to follow the same steps that we did with the other ones and putting it together. But this is going to be just a shallower box. So let's get our scoreboard out. And let's put down that B2 paper. I'm going to go ahead and take off the backing. Let's make sure to use our spacers. And we should end up with 1 inch all the way around, because that's how wide these ones are. They're 1 inch wide. Do the 2 E pieces. Stick that in there. Snug it right up against that. And the next one. Push that one down really well. We'll burnish it in a minute. Put the D. Take the backing off of these. One more. We have some fun projects that are coming our way with the other design team members. And I hope you all are enjoying this one as well. I think it's an easy way to put together a box, but comes together fairly quickly. Alright, now we're going to do just like we did before, and we're going to roll over the sides and burnish. I still have my cover hinge here, by the way, that I haven't done anything with, so I'll be using that in a minute. As soon as I find my bone folder. Always getting away from me. So again, we're just going to wrap these every one of them. And a couple more. Make sure to press down really well. I'm going to get a nice, clean, crisp edge with this. Alright. And the final one. This is going to be the bottom of that top box. This will be 2. Okay, and now we're going to cut out those corners, just like we did on the other one. This goes fairly quickly, as you can tell, or hopefully you can tell. That one, 1E. I wonder how many of you all are watching along. Am I putting you to sleep or what? Or are you working alongside of me? Hopefully. This is my first time doing a retreat or teaching for a retreat. So I do have my YouTube channel. It's called MadeFromScrap. I started that a while ago, but really wasn't all that active, and I've just, now that my kids are grown, I've been able to actually do more crafting when I'm not working, so I like to do that. Okay, one more. I'm excited about the upcoming other retreats that Tamara is offering. So I hope to see some more of you there and meet you. Now we're going to go ahead and glue down the edges, just like we did the other one. So I'm going to do these ends. I'm going to grab my little rag. Quick, quick. It goes fairly quickly here. I am new to the design team, so I hope you do give Tamara some feedback. Or if you want to give me some feedback, I'd be more than happy to hear what I can improve on. Because like I said, this is my first one. So this project, I know, is not going to be for everyone, but I hope a lot of folks enjoy it anyhow. Oh, I do also have some aquarium pictures that I need to probably put in here too. That's from this summer. Oh, I need to trim that one off. rogue piece there. Don't get too worried about it because it's a box. And we're going to be decorating it with pretty paper. And that's where your eye will go to. Anyhow, the decorative paper. Until we put our pictures, right? Or journaling notes. Perhaps you like to journal. And you're going to use it as a journal. Just a different type of look to it. Instead of it being a book. Maybe you want to do some new type of new to you type crafting. Try it out and journal about it. Maybe decorate each of those memory decks cards a little differently with a different technique. Let's see what it was that you liked about it, enjoyed. Maybe you want to include some pictures of yourself doing crafting. Or maybe it's the grandkids that you got some pictures of. Or your pet. Maybe. I've included a couple of pictures of my little puppy as he's swimming in the summer. Very cute. Okay. We're on the home stretch here. Just a little bit more. Last edge. Okay. Now we've got all the sides and the bottom to this top box put together. And that's how that's going to look. Right there until we put that together. So let's make sure to do the hinges now. Alright, now we have those hinges cut, so put that aside, and we'll get our scoreboard back out, and we're going to go ahead and do the scoring with the 1 inch at the top, and we're going to score at 1/2 inch for all of these hinges. Those are going to attach the side walls. And then these longer pieces that are 6 inches, I'm going to attach the short walls to the bottom. And then the longer one is going to attach the longer walls to the bottom. Okay. And let's move these off. Oops. Sorry, made everybody dizzy there a little bit, huh? Wrong way. Okay. So let's go ahead and burnish all of these hinges. Okay. 2 6-inch ones. And then the 2 7.5-inch ones. Okay. And the same way that we did the last one, we're going to use our mat if we have it. And we're going to line these up. Short, long, short, long. Okay, and then we're going to use the hinge again with the folded edge towards the second side. Okay, I'm just going to glue these down. Burnish them well. I'm going to go ahead and do this one. Put these on. So we're doing this all at once. Okay. Burnish that one. Okay. Now align this back up. Place glue on your hinge and then secure it down. Now if you don't have the mat, just like I mentioned before, you could use your scoreboard so that you are in a short one and then a long. Don't do this, long or short, no. Short and then long. And use the edge of your scoreboard to push those up against, okay? And that will help you secure it a little better. And then you can glue that down and burnish, okay? And then just scoot it down, put your short one in there, butt it up against each other. We'll place the glue on the hinge, push it down. Okay, next. Okay, and just like before, you want to do your little dry fit before we glue it all together anyhow. Okay, good. Now we're going to go ahead and put the hinges on at the bottom. With the folded edge right up to the bottom. Next long one. It's going to go right on this D piece. And these are the two shorter pieces. Place those down. One last one. Hopefully I'm staying in camera at this point. Within frame. I feel like I need a microphone. I feel like I'm yelling, but maybe it's not that loud. Okay. And then we're gonna put this out of the way. You could use that to help you stand it up and have it square. That's a good idea. So let's go ahead and glue the corner down. You see I placed glue there. Turn it here. Place some glue in that corner. And then last one, make sure that you put your hinge on the inside for consistency. Okay. And then we're going to be sticking this down in there, but we need some glue along the lip. Okay. And if you want to paper this before you put the glue. That might make it easier in the long run, but if not, have no fear. We can still do it. Now this is going to be tight, but you just have to press down and use your bone folder to get those corners in there, and then make sure to burnish really well to set that glue up. Okay, so you should have your glue burnished down on the paper. Onto the bottom anyhow. Okay. You can do it this way. Just make sure to burnish it really well. And that is your second box. Let's grab our first one. And this is going to be sitting right on top of the prior. Okay. We're going to work on putting something on the bottom, but first we're going to work on the inserts for the straws. And what I want you to do is to, put the top box away. So you're going to have the deeper box, that's for your memory dex cards. And what you want to do is make sure to pick out which decorative paper you want for these ends and for the bottom. And we're going to go ahead and place those in, and then we're going to put the straw holder. So you pick out your paper and do your measurements, because like I said earlier, everybody's going to be different. You might get away with just a hair under 6 inches for your decorative paper. I would cut it a little long first and then trim it back. And the depth is likely going to be about 4 3/8. That's just shy of 4 1/2. But you do your measurements and decorate your box, and I will be right back after doing that. So welcome back. I have cut my paper for the bottom of the box, and I've used the one sheet that is what I consider non-directional. So if you're using a directional sheet, you're going to need 2 different patterns or 2 pieces of paper to cover this bottom box. For the outside, just wanted to make sure to select my papers for this. And then on the inside, I have cut down a couple of sheets. I'm going all pink inside there. I am going to do the bottom first. And I'm going to do the watermelons. That down in there. sure to burnish it down really well. Okay, and then I'm going to put the sides on. Turn it onto its side so I can burnish that one. And I'm going to do the other side. Burnish it down. It's starting to come together. So for me, I'm having 3 sides on the inside. Pink. And then my 4th side is what I intend to be look as the back of my box. So when I look in it, I'm going to see that on the back side. Let's do another little dry fit here. I think it's a little long. So I'm just going to take a snippet off. Ever so slightly. Better. Okay, inside of my watermelon box is complete, with the exception of now these F pieces. So the F is the one that I told you that we would measure dependent on your box. So I would like to cut it a little bit short of the actual box itself. So can you see my little mark? That's where I'm going to cut mine, and then I'm going to cut this in half. So I'm going to cut it to length first, and then I'm going to cut it in half. Okay? Because it turns out I only need 1 F piece and not 2. So let me just cut this quickly. And this is a 2-inch piece, so I'm just going to cut it to 1 inch in length. Line that up. Okay. And we're going to get a couple of our extra pieces that we had. Here's one. And this is how my desk becomes a mess. But so let's see. That is 5 7/8 by 1 inch. So we need 1 inch on either side. That's going to be 3 inches wide by 7 7/8. See, we have 4 inches. 7 7/8 by 3 inches. That's one of those. Need 1 more. (7 7/8) 3 inches. Okay. Bring back out our scoreboard. And some tape. Just stick that tape on real quick. Alright. Do some burnishing. Get these back out again. Stick these down. And these are going to hold our straws. And that's going to make our Memory-Dex box. Okay. And while I have this out, I'm having this cover hinge hanging on over here. So I'm going to go ahead and score that at 1/2 inch on the 1 inch side also. Okay. We're going to wrap these entirely. All the way around, just like a mini book cover. Got a little wobbly on that one. And then we're going to cut out the corners again. On both of them. And don't get ahead of me on this, because I have one thing to make sure to show you about this straw holder. Make sure that you take into account okay, let's wrap these. And by the way, if you want to put some decorative paper on these, we can do that also. So it's just enough to wrap around this piece and give it some extra thickness. Okay. Do the other one. Almost done here. Okay. Now, two things. Let's see. Okay. This is the inside. If this is the outside, oh, and I want to put some decorative paper on it, then I need to select the paper I want, first of all. I guess I'll go with this one. Okay, I want to select the paper that I want, and then I'm going to cut these down. So remember it was 5 7/8, so I'm just going to cut another 1/8 off of that. So I'm going to cut an 1/8 off of that, so that is 5 3/4. And then it's just under 1/2 inch because I'm going to have a little border strip there. Meaning the cardstock will be showing around the edge. So let me go ahead and glue these down right to the center. And last one. Again, remember this is not directional. If you're using directional paper, that's okay for this, but in a minute you're going to want to be very particular. Okay, so here comes the memory decks part. Okay, you're not going to take these two and put one on top of the other. What you're going to do is you're going to put them back to back. Okay, that way your straws will align with each other when they go in. So we're going to do a dry fit first. You're going to take your box bottom, the larger, the deeper box, and there should be a little bit of play in here, just a little. Not a whole lot on either end. Okay, make sure that the back sides are together. And then what we're going to do is you're going to take your template or your punch, and you're going to cut out a piece that is going to be the typical size of your memory decks. Okay. Which most likely is going to be in the neighborhood of somewhere between 3.5 to 4 inches tall. So I'm just going to make mine, why not, 3 3/4 inches. And then the width, we need to be less than our box. So I'm gonna use 5 3/4 of an inch. Just trying to make my bathing suits a little bit even, but I don't know if I did or not. Okay, now that's going to be our first memory decks, and you're going to use either your template or your punch, or if you have a die, you can use a die. But what you want to do is align your memory decks so that it's in the center. So if you want to use your cutting mat to help you find the center, or if you have your demi ruler, you can help find the center to that, just like that. Okay, or you can do some measurements because I have that on the template sheet as well. and you're going to create this first memory dex, just like that. Because we're going to end up using this as a template. For the rest. Okay. So once you have created your template, okay, on your first card, you're going to take the spacer and you're going to line this up from side to side so that it's even, and you're going to leave a little bit of space down at the bottom. You can eyeball it. It's about 1/8 of an inch that I have. And then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to outline around that memory dex shape. Okay. Now don't worry about the opening. You just want the rectangles. And then you're going to use your crocodile, and we're going to punch a hole out of just this one first. Let me clean out my crocodile here. See what I'm doing here? Try to zoom in a little bit more so you can see. And again, I'm just going to use this crocodile to punch out that shape, that rectangular shape. See that? Do not punch out the bottom. You don't want to do that. You just want to create as clean a hole as possible. And then you're going to do the second one. Clean out this crocodile. Let's see. I'm trying to get that little piece out from in there. Okay, you can kind of see, there you go. You know, it's not perfect as far as the hole is concerned, but it doesn't need to be. It just needs to be functional. And what we are doing with this is putting the wrong sides together. Okay, line them up on either end. And then again, take your pencil and use your pencil to outline or trace around those holes that you just created. It's very important for you to use the wrong sides together so that these will align when they're in the box. So now we have that. We're going to do the same thing. Punch out the pieces here from the crocodile with using the crocodile. Okay. Clean that up just a little bit. Takes just a little bit of patience here. Okay. All right. Okay, now that we have those, should be able to line them up just like that. Okay, and you're going to grab your 2 straws. Sorry, I didn't have these ready. But for your 2 straws, again, you're going to take your box now. Your straws are expected to be just a hair longer than your box. You don't want to push your box out and make them go in there. We are going to trim off that little bit off of these straws. And what we're going to do is we're going to trim off just an eighth of an inch off of there, so that it barely fits down in there, snugly, but not making the box bow out. Okay, so that's still making the box bow out a little bit. I'm going to just trim the hair more, and I feel like that's good. Because these are paper straws, it makes it a lot easier to trim them, obviously. Okay, and that's the second one. Now, I'm going to push my 2 straws through, you can do one at a time, through both of these. Okay, see I have both pieces? But put them right sides together this time. Okay. And then put your straw through. I'm just doing a dry fit again to make sure that they fit. And they do. So what we're going to do is put one towards the end. It doesn't have to be hanging off just yet. But this is going to end up going inside of our box like this. Now what we want to do is we want to put glue along this outer edge. That way when we put it down in there, it's going to stick in place. Okay, let me back up just a little bit so you can see what it is that I'm doing. This all cleaned up, just because that's bothering me. Alright, we're going to put glue on here, glue on here. Make sure that you have the straws towards the bottom when you put it in. Don't put it in upside down. And this is another reason that it's nice to be working with the glue, to give you a little bit of extra time. Okay, again, make sure that the straws are towards the bottom when you go putting this in. I'm just going to go sliding down in there until the chipboard hits the bottom of the box, and then slide it back against the side wall. Same thing here. Slide it all the way down, and then slide this small piece towards the side wall of your box. Okay, and that should secure your 2 straws into the bottom, and we're going to burnish this down. So sorry you cannot see this, but I am just burnishing so that the glue gets a good stick on those side walls, in and around the straws. I'll do it here too. And what you should have then is a template to cut the rest of your memory decks and stick that on. And those will slide just like that. So that's your first of your memory decks cards, and you have your holder ready to go. Now we need to finish the top box. So I am going to be right back and tell you how to do the bottom insert, and then we'll do the matting and the acetate window. Okay, bottom side of the top box. So this is going to be the way that we go about making the top box fit onto the bottom box. So remember that second F piece, and then you had one G piece about this size. They should be the same length. What we're going to do is we're going to cut these down. So the G piece right now measures 1.5 inches. So we are going to cut that down to 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and then we're going to glue those two together. And then we're going to do the same thing with F. We're going to cut it down to 3/4 of an inch. So it's three of them. 4 of them. Okay. And we're going to wrap these in cardstock, and then those will create our bumpers, if you will, that'll sit down inside the top box. Now, if you want to, what you can do is just cut this in 1.5 inch lengths. So that I can get 4 out of it. This is the remainder of that F piece. Okay. We have 4 of those. I'm going to use 2 of these here. And just glue it down. Okay, and I'm going to place glue here. That's not going to hurt to put a third one, whatever. It's just your leftover pieces. We're using up those scraps. Right. I created a thickness that we're going to wrap in cardstock. And then after we wrap it, we're going to glue this on here, and we're going to glue the other one on there. But before you glue those, let me make sure to tell you, let me pull the other little G strip that I had, and actually I might just use that right there. Just trim it off a little. Again, we're using up some scraps here. Okay. This is so we end up with 3 layers of this chipboard piece. Okay. Back to our pile of scraps of cardstock. Let's see what we have. We have this one. And this is only 3/4 of an inch, so we need to make sure that we only have 3/4 of an inch here and 3/4 of an inch on that side. So 3/4 plus 3/4 is 1.5, plus another 3/4 is going to be 2.25. And then we'll leave an inch on either side. Close this up. So, if you want, we can just align this here and then make sure this comes over to 2 inches in length. And we're going to go to 2.25. And that should fit that nicely. So the length of that ends up being 9.5 by 2 1/4. Okay. We're going to glue that down right on the edge. Not on the edge, I'm sorry, but remember I cannot use my spacers for this, so I'm going to use, because those are 1 inch, so I'm going to eyeball 1 inch down and 3/4 of an inch over from the edge. Now if you want to, what you can do is do this, 1/4 and that. You can score it like that, and then you'll know exactly where to place your chipboard. Cut out these corners. So go ahead and give this a wrap. Wrap it around the end there. Give it a good burnish there. Now, one reminder before you go putting this down on the bottom of the box is if you want to place your colored paper, you need to think about, are you going to be covering these as well, these little bumper pieces, or are you going to leave these plain? We did wrap them, so you could place them down and they look pretty neat on there. You could even create another one and inset a photo for a frame. Okay, that's up to you, but I have to decide whether or not I'm going to put a paper on there or not. But let me go ahead and wrap this second one. All right, 2 1/4 inches in length by 9.5 inches. I'm going to do 3/4 of an inch on both sides, long sides, and then 1 inch on the short. You know what I mean? 1 inch here, 3/4 of an inch on that side, and 1 inch there. Okay. And I'm going to glue this down. Here. Push it. I'm going to roll the edge edges. Cut those corners out. And we'll glue down the edges again. Okay, nearly done. Second side left. And I think I am going to go ahead and place some paper there. I'm going to measure my paper 6 inches by 7.5. Inches. By 7.5. I'm going to place that down. Yeah, I'm going to cut 3/4 of an inch off of both sides so I can use it. Three-quarters of an inch. Three-quarters of an inch. Ooh, do I want it like that? Too much stripes. Too stripey. Gives it a little bit of dimension this way. Yeah, I think I like that. Let's go for it. I'm going to glue these down on the bumpers or the rails, you want to call it. Do not glue these down yet. Okay, not yet. Okay, we're just going to dry fit these rails so we can place this paper underneath, just slightly overlapping the rails. Because if you have, and I'm calling these the rails, if you don't, it won't inset into the box, and you want it to inset, these to inset into the prior box. So if I grab this box, this rail is going to sit down right inside here, pretty snug. Okay, you can see that it goes in, it's just a little snug. So we're going to make sure that when we put this on, we inset it from the side. Just a little bit, okay? Not a lot, just a little bit. I'm really just using this to line up this paper so that then I can bend half of it back. In order to glue it down. And then I'll peel this back and glue this edge down. And then we're going to set these, like I said, just a little inside, just a hair inside the edge. Just a hair overlapping your paper. If you chose to decorate it, anyhow. And then this one's going to go on this side. Ever so slightly. And that is going to allow you to inset into the box and hold it in place. See that? Zoom out a little. Hear it? Locks in. Now you have your double-decker box. Before you decorate the inside of the top box, make sure that you pull out your hinge, your cover hinge, and you want to place that down so that then you can put the decorative paper on top of that. Okay? Or if you want to wait to decorate the inside of this until after you have your cover made, that would work also. But just don't forget to put your hinge on. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And one other thing that you may want to consider doing is you should still have some leftover chipboard. You may want to consider cutting another piece the length of this, what was a D piece inside here, and wrapping it in cardstock and putting it in here. The reason is to alleviate the gap that's on the box naturally. Okay, then you would fill that in with that additional piece of cardstock. If you're going to put the pom-pom trim around the outer edge, then it covers it just fine. The other thing that I'll tell you that I did, and I'm going to do differently on this second box, is this little loop I intended to be a pull tab because I was going to have it open the opposite way, but on the other box I'm going to put it on the side so that it would allow me to easily open the lid back and forth as a pull tab. So we'll go over that now. Okay, so we're going to be using our B3 piece, which is the cover, the 6 inches at the top, and we're going to mark 1 inch down. So if you have your scoreboard and you've done something like this where you've sharpied in that 6-inch mark, that's going to be helpful here to align your ruler with that mark. Okay, we're going to mark 1 inch there. I'm going to turn it around. We're going to mark 1 inch here. We're going to mark 1 inch along the bottom. Okay, and then we're going to mark 2 inches, so I need to line it with the 8. 2 inches from the top. And this creates the area that I'm going to cut out with my Sharpie knife, or since this is this lighter weight chipboard, we can cut it out with this. So you could have saved yourself marking all this up if you just want to do it this way and do your measurements right here on your cutting board. Make sure you stay to 2 inches from what's going to be the top. Okay. We're taking that right out. Save that for later because it already has my score tape on it. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to wrap this piece with our B3 piece of cardstock. So lay those down. That's here. And we can take off our backing. We can lay this down. And then besides doing the edges, like we have been doing all along, we're going to cut out the center and wrap towards the inside of that cutout. So you're going to take your ruler, and you're going to go from corner to corner and either make a mark and cut along it or use your straight edge. Either way. I'm going to use my straight edge. Okay, so you have your X like this. Each one of these are going to get pulled up and through. Just like that. Pull it away from the opening, and then burnish that edge. That way you get a nice crisp edge. Okay. And then you need to make a line, or what have you. You want to just cut these off, just like that. Just as long as you're not hanging over. This piece is not going to show. Okay. And you're going to cut out these corners as well. And now I'm going to glue the insides down first. So I'm going to wrap those around. Just like that. Okay. And now I'm going to do the outer. You're going to be selecting your paper, and you're going to be pulling out your acetate for the next piece. There we go. I do want to make sure that these corners are not going to hang over. Okay. Now, I just take a piece. You can, if you're really worried about it, you can cover that up. Or you can do your cutout of your decorative paper. But really, if you mark this, just wouldn't go very far beyond the opening because you're going to be putting your foam tape. And that will end up covering it up. So I'm just going to place this down. You can see that I just trimmed a piece of leftover cardstock just so I don't see this. So I'm not sure yet what paper I'm going to use. but we're going to be figuring that out. And we also have the hinge that we have to put on. Okay. So when you are doing your decorative paper, you want to make sure not to glue the edge that the hinge is going to go on, because you'll slip your hinge underneath that decorative paper so that you can align the top. Okay. Let me get my acetate cut. So you should have received acetate in your kit, and we are going to be cutting 2 pieces that are 5 by 6. So you likely have a piece that is already 6 inches, and we're going to cut 2 pieces to the width of 5 inches. That'll give us an overlap on our opening. So 5 by 6. And then a second one. And that's a leftover piece that you can hang on to and make something else with. So we have 2 sheets there. What you want to do is turn your cover over to the back side, and we're going to place some glue tape, score tape around the outer edge. Right along the perimeter. Just along the edge there. Okay. And then you need to make sure to really burnish it well. And then I'm going to peel up the backing. I'm going to take the first of your 2 acetate sheets. You're going to make sure to line it up really well before you lay it down, because as soon as you lay it down, it's going to stick really good. Okay. Burnish around that outside edge. Okay. And now we're going to place our decorative paper on. And remember what I said on the hinge side, make sure not to glue along the hinge. No glue there. So leave it open for the hinge. And I am going to select the paper I want to use. I'm going to use this paper. So I'm going to mark that real quick. Be the bottom. Do, 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 do. Okay, I'm going to use this to go one eighth more than an inch. I'm going to line this up again, and I'm going to start at 1 inch. Nope, Nicole. I'm going to start at 2 inches down. And I'm going to go all the way down to just 1 inch. Well, an inch and an eighth above the bottom. So let me turn that around. I'm going to line this up at 7 1/8 because I have a mark at 6. That gives me an inch and an eighth of a measurement in. And I'm going to start at 1 inch this time because now this is the bottom of the paper. And I'm going to come all the way up to about here, which should be 2 inches down from the top. And then I'm going to measure 2 1/8 inches from the top here. Line my ruler at 6 inches. Go ahead and cross that. Am I doing it the wrong way, Nicole? Yeah, it needs to be smaller. Do, 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 do. Yep, back it up. Back it up, back it up. What I should have done is just do 7/8. But I don't have that marked. Of course, if you don't make a pencil mark too bold, then you can always erase it. Come down here, do 1/8 again, or 1/8 off of 1 inch. Does that look right? Yeah, that looks right. This one doesn't look right. Might be turning this over after all. Don't know why I fight it. 7/8. 7/8. One and 7/8. Okay. After all of that, yep. So you are going to see these corner edges, so you may want to consider putting a decoration on the corners. Otherwise, you need to trim it right up to the edge, which would be 1 inch instead of 7/8 to the inside. Now this doesn't bother me because I am going to decorate the corners, but I think you see it less there. And I have them marked all over the page. Am I going to decorate it? Probably. Alright, let me run. I'm getting the skinny tape. And just run along the outside edge. Okay. And then I'm going to run this along this outer edge as well. You have to use the tape because the glue just doesn't dry with the acetate. It just makes a big mess. And we don't want that. So just putting the tape all along the perimeter. I'll stick one there too. And then give it a good burnish. Okay, and then we're going to take the backing off. Off all of these pieces. Oh, look, I almost did it. I need to leave this open, so I'm glad that I wrote myself a note. Because you can just pull that one off. That was a close one, guys. Let's take the edging off of this. And then once we get this stuck down, oh, don't make it all out of whack. Don't get it all out of whack here, so. I'm going to try to line it as best as you can without pulling it. That is the hard part right there. Okay. And again, I have the glue along the edge. Okay, this is my inside. And I left this open so I can slip the hinge down inside of there, just like that. So that then I can align this. So I'll be gluing it at the end in order to align it well. Okay, but now we have our acetate cover on. And now we need to build up this edge with some foam tape. Okay, so for the foam tape, what you're going to do is I've measured mine to be 4 1/8 wide. So I'm going to double that measurement, meaning it's 8 1/4. 8 1/4. Cut that there. And then I am going to carefully double this up. Like that, sticky side to sticky side. Just like that. So that you have 4 1/4. Okay. And then you can use your straight edge, or you can use your scissors, and then just cut it long ways. If you have a wide foam tape, that is. Mine is pretty wide, so That's what I'm doing. And then I will take the backing off and stick this down. Leaving the foam tape just maybe 1/8 of an inch outside of the opening so that you don't see the foam tape. Okay. And I'm just going to peel the backing off of one side for now. And align that just so. And then the other one, same thing. Peel the backing. And place it about 1/8 of an inch outside. That also. And then we'll measure this one from the outer edge of the foam tape to the outer edge, which is 5 1/4, so that's going to be 10 1/2 doubled. I'm just making a little mark with my finger. I could cut this. Okay. Just work the edges down. Make sure it's stuck together really well, and then again, cut it long ways. Right down the middle. And you can peel back one side of it. And stick that down. And you want to make sure to butt right up against those other two pieces on the top and the bottom. You don't want to leave any type of a gap in here. Because if you do, that is definitely where your sequins will get out. Okay. If you don't have the wide foam tape, then you can just, continue layering. One on top of the other. And you can see how it's given it a little bit of thickness there. Okay. Now I still have the backing on this side, and depending on what you want to put in your shape for your shaker bits. Where's mine? Here they are. My little bathing suits. What I want to put in there. mine. I may end up putting some little beach balls in there. I'm cutting out some watermelons to put in there. That would be cute also. But you need to grab your little static thing. And if you don't have one of these, then this is where the cornstarch comes into play. But you just want to rub about the edge. And by doing that, you're going to try to get not only the static cling off, but also the sticky from that is on the edge off, so that your sequins or your sand or your little bits don't get stuck along those edge as much. Probably still will a little bit, but where did my sand go? It got up and walked away. Not for you. You should have received a little package like this in your kit. Okay. If you want a little word in there, go ahead and put that in there. Okay, after you get your shaker bits all ready in there, lay down, then you're going to have your second piece of acetate, and I am going to cut off a 1/2 inch off of mine, because that will align better with my foam tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and lift off the backing. It's giving me some fits here. There we go. There we go. And again, once you place it down, that's it. So make sure you have it aligned well. Press it down good. Seal that down into your acetate. And there's your paper bit. For mine, I cut out some watermelons. I cut out some bathing suits. And you can see, you really have to put too thick right there. That's alright, it's fun this way, right? I like to play with it. But I have some sand in there and some sequins in there. The bathing suits. I cut out some of the words from the edge of the paper piece, pool. Yeah, that's not coming off. So let's cut the paper that we need for the inside of the top of the box. And what we're going to do is we're going to take, I want my paper all to be the same inside of there. So we're going to make a couple of strategic cuts here. First, we're going to cut off this end strip. And then we are going to cut the paper at 6 inches. Okay, put that one aside. Then we're going to turn the paper, and we're going to cut it at 7 5/8. You need to measure your box, okay, but 7 5/8. Now that is going to be the bottom, and I kind of figured it would be a little bit tight. So I may want to trim that down just a hair. Just short of 7 5/8. Try it again. That's better. That's the bottom. Now this was the remaining piece, and I want it at 2 3/8. Again, you want to measure your box, but that's going to be one of the sides. Okay. And then we're going to take the large piece that was left over, and we're going to turn it long ways this way, and we're going to cut it at 2 3/8 again. And that's going to be this side. Okay. And then we're going to turn this one more time, and we're going to cut back. We're going to cut it at 7.5. Just shy of 7.5. Okay. Turn it long ways, and we're going to cut it at 2 3/8. And then 2 3/8 again. Okay. And see, you have to pick a paper that is non-directional for this, by the way. So if you do that, you'll have all 4 sides and the bottom. And it all fits in there from the 1 12 by 12. Okay? So I am going to glue those in, and I will be right back, and we'll attach the top and put some decoration on it. Okay, everybody, the last thing we're going to do is cover the foam that goes over top of your shaker so that you don't see it. And I will say, if you're doing your shaker, then you probably want to put a couple of folded over layers of foam tape. On the first one I did 3 layers. Yeah, 3 layers of foam, whereas here you can see I've done 2, and it doesn't move quite as well. So make sure you give yourself extra room in there. And then what I did here is I placed a sheet of paper, the decorative paper that I want to use, over top, and then I marked exactly what the width of the acetate was so that I could cut it this way and then cut it this way, and then the length and the width. And then I measured the average width of my foam tape from the edge to the inside of the foam tape, and then I made it a little wider. So for me it happened to be 1/2 inch. So then I used my cutter and I placed the edge of my paper in my cutter, and I started the blade 1/2 inch down from the top, and the edge of the paper is 1/2 inch over the cutting location, and then I went down as far as 1/2 inch before the bottom of the page, and I did that all the way around to create a 1/2 inch frame. And you can see that when I place this there, you get a nice coverage of the foam. And what I'm going to use is some more score tape to adhere this down. And then I'm going to, let's do that real quick. After this, then I'm going to go ahead and put the top onto the hinge. And then all you need to do is decorate your box with any embellishments that you'd like to use. Remember, you have your pom-pom trim, and you also have seam binding. And then one other thing that I want to give you some instruction about, which would be the little piece of seam binding that I looped over in order to use that as the opening. So almost done here. One more piece of score tape there. Okay. Okay. And before I adhere that down, I want to choose the seam binding that I'd like to use. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and go for, let's see, yellow. I do like the yellow. Red? Yeah, maybe the red. I'm just going to create a little loop, okay, that I'd like to see out the side. I'm going to flip that over and cut my seam binding. And before I put my before I put my frame down, I want to make sure to adhere my seam binding. Now this is the double-sided tape, so I just taped one side down, and then I'm going to loop this over, and I'm going to press it down on the tape there again. I'm going to place some extra tape on top of it. Okay, and then I'm going to remove the backing from these. Going to be pretty sticky. Okay. Once you touch it onto that acetate, that's it. So make sure that you have the paper the way you want it. I think I like my little loops this way. And watch that all that foam tape is covered so you don't see it. Stick it down. Okay. And then you can continue to burnish however you like to. Get my little shape. Alright. And now we're going to use this hinge. And remember, I left open that paper so that I didn't glue it down, so that I can use that hinge at this point and decide where it's going to align. Okay, so I did a little dry fit, and now I'm going to go ahead and place glue on both sides of that hinge. This will give you a little working time. And make sure not to place glue close to the box, because you don't want it to show. Because you may need to pull yours away from the box edge. Okay. Stick that down and close this up. And then I'm going to just gently give it a little bit of pressure in between my fingers so that I can secure that edge. And now I'll give it a burnish. And what you should end up with is a little tiny gap. There you go. Along the edge there. That, as I mentioned, this closes on this side. And you're going to probably use that pom-pom trim that was given to us and hot glue that on. We're going to glue that right to the edge. So that pom-pom trim, and then we will just do a 90-degree turn here. Just like that. Glue it right to the edge, and that covers up all of your outer edges. There you go. Do another miter there. I'd suggest gluing it down before you cut it, okay? But once you cut it, then perhaps you would like to put your pom-pom trim around the inside as well. I think I'll do that. And that's it for this little tutorial. But I hope you go ahead and use your template at this point. Cut out your 6x6s, trim them down just a hair to fit inside this box, and do your decorating of all your memory dexes. You can put little journaling spots on them, and you can put pictures on them. And I hope you enjoy the rest of this neighborhood block party retreat. And happy crafting. Bye.